Lovely to see you all here at this wonderful, very special African Spiritual Practices event. This is my second time attending, but I've been talking with Akua for quite a while. I'm based in Leicester. I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm really glad to see all of you here today. So give thanks. I'm going to be talking. The reason why I'm sitting is I have got some musculoskeletal challenges, and I had to run here to get here on time because there was an accident further up City Road. So I'm going to be sitting, but I may walk around a bit, and I'm going to be talking, and then we're going to do a short workshop together. So I will be standing and going around with that to end the session. So I'm just going to be talking first. So today, Akua said to me, I'd like you to talk at this event, and, you know, I've got a theme. And I went, oh yeah, because I thought I was going to be talking about Sekhem or some of the other things that I do in terms of African spiritual healing practices, because I see myself as a healer, but I'm also an artist. But to me, they kind of go through one another. You know, arts is healing, modalities of Sekhem, Reiki, or whatever it is. But, you know, I work as a poet, as a visual artist, a filmmaker, theatre director. But for me, it all weaves together. So she said, I'd like you to respond to the idea or the notion that what does it mean to be human? That's massive. That is huge. But I'm going to give my response, and I think during the weekend you will hear other speakers who will talk about what it means for them. Welcome. Do join us. So I'm going to start off with something you may have heard before, but it's something that's part of my journey, and that's the idea of word, sound, power. Okay? And my further statement is, for me, I live in a world of dreams and stories. And that's kind of my starting point as to what it is that makes us, makes us human. So to start off with, what it means to be human for me could stem from one single idea. That as humans, we make and tell stories. That we have power to make choices through our mind, spirit, bodies, voices, our word and language, through movement, through sound making, as well as create art. Artifacts. And we have ancestors, and we have lineages, and therefore we create legacies. All these things, for me, are what make us human. So along with, of course, with all of that, we have our ability to shape and impact our environment. And I want to highlight these distinctive things. That is our power as humans. This power of storytelling in different ways and in different forms. Because I really think this is something that's very, very unique to us as human beings. So clearly, it's these abilities that really distinguish us from our fellow creatures or beings, that we share the planet with. As we, of course, we don't know or understand the stories of our fellow creatures, be they animal, plant, or tree beings, i.e. non-human, on this earth. Or can we? That's an open question. But I want to introduce the idea of what I and others refer to as the ancient old ways. That is a legacy of spiritual and cultural practices of First Nation peoples across the world. And I also want to introduce this term that I know when I was growing up was seen as quite negative, but I've kind of taken it back now. Welcome. And that is the idea of animism. And simply, an understanding of energy and of frequencies as manifested in both humans, animals, plants, trees, stones, crystals, the elements, the cosmos. Energy, life force, frequencies. And all of these things have their own stories, these things that I've mentioned. I'd further state that one of the things that fascinates me, as I said earlier, is we live in a world of stories. The cosmos, the elements, the story of molecules, of atoms, of quarks, metaphysics. Everything, for me, has a story. And as such, the world is made up of stories. So these stories are all made up of energy and fashioned and created in different frequencies and colours and hues and different matter. And this informs. So for me, this is one of our most uniquely human qualities, an attribute, if you will, is that we are able to observe. Welcome. We're able to observe and tell these stories. But one of the things that's very human and very unique to humans is the stories that we tell ourselves and our fellow creatures and human beings about ourselves and the world and the cosmos that we live in, as well as the stories of worlds and existences beyond our physical and material dimensions. If you like, our ability around legends and myth-making and the way we use parables and allegories and stories about deities and such like. So these sorts of things are the things that fascinate me, and for me are the things that make us uniquely human, our ability to do all of those things. So when I talk about highlighting word sound power, which was something that was highlighted and very much emphasized to me by, from reggae dub music and from dub poetry, and was reiterated by a close friend of mine, Jean Brinter-Breeze, the poet who is now with the Ancestors. For me, this particular phrase emanates from African spiritual practices, both in Jamaica and on the continent and across the diaspora. So if I just focus on Jamaica, which is part of my background, I mean, I've learnt this as something as part of Rastafarian spirituality, born in the hills of Jamaica. So for instance, to chant or to reason forms part of the African retention in Jamaica and within African, Caribbean and Jamaican people, which is in addition to, in Jamaica, our rich, rich legacy of proverbs, which links to proverbial reasoning. These are key aspects of African spirituality retention, but also on the continent of Africa and across the diasporic cultures. Our ability through oral history to impart wisdom and codes and science and cultural practices down millennia. So this African spirituality, this African philosophy, we still have retentions. And one of the things that's really good to do is to find out, for those of us in the diaspora, what our African retentions are and begin to dig and to excavate into those. So for a moment, if I think about in Jamaica, as part of our oral tradition, proverbs have been a way of imparting wisdom and philosophy, usually on the part of the older generation, as in Africa. So, for example, if you look at the book Jamaica Labrish by Dr. Louise Bennett, this is part of a wider historical Jamaican culture, but not just amongst the Rastafarian community, but can be found in the general popular culture, in conversations, in our music, in books, in texts. But the point I want to make is that proverbs themselves allude and contain mini stories. They have mini stories within them. You know, a few words of a proverb has a story. And these provide deep wisdom, moral or ethical information. So another example, an excellent example of this, is the Ghanaian Ashanti tradition of Adinkara symbols, which come with accompanying proverbs. And I'm sure some of you may have heard about Yah talking about the deep, profound meaning of Adinkara symbols in relation to metaphysical matters. But these accompanying proverbs and their meanings, these are so important and a part of that Ashanti legacy and tradition that are handed down. I know when I first got involved with Adinkara, I just thought, oh, that's a nice symbol, and oh, that's an interesting proverb. But, you know, through engaging with Yah and others, I can go into some deeper mathematical and metaphysical, deeper meanings as to what Adinkara symbols actually contain. So there's also always been this long established, extensive canon of wisdom in Africa and across the diaspora, as contained in things like poetry, proverbs. So for example, if you look at the Yoruba tradition, there is an extensive canon of poetry that goes along with the Yoruba spiritual practices and religion and the Orishas. And this has been handed down, and as we know, this has been handed down right across the African diaspora. And I suppose what I'm emphasizing there within a perspective of African spiritual practices is the multiplicity and the different ways that Africans will tell a story. So Africans will tell a story, word. They will tell a story in movement, in sound, in visual art, in artifacts. They may be recounting a narrative, a story, and they may break it. They may cry out, they may sing, they may laugh. The way we as Africans tell stories is very diverse, very multiple. We use and combine and weave together different forms. So, furthermore, one of the ways that I draw my understanding of what it is to be human, I really do draw it from an African perspective. And as a starting point, as stated by Jacob Olupuna, Professor of Indigenous African Religions at Harvard Divinity School, he defines, and I quote, African religion is indigenous religion. African religions, or the native religions before Christian and Islamic colonization of Africa, unquote. This includes, I would add, what it means to be human in terms of all the branches of African philosophy, beliefs and practices. He goes on to say, and I quote, "African spirituality simply acknowledges that beliefs and practices touch on every facet of human life. And therefore, African spirituality cannot be separated from everyday mundane life," unquote. So, therefore, this adds to my own understanding of African religion. And I know the word religion can be problematic. So for me, I'm kind of using it synonymously with spirituality and spiritual practice that basically incorporates a way of life and aspects of your environment and your communal life and your collectivism and being a key part of a culture or a community. So for Africans, religion stroke spirituality are not separated from any of these things. It's not separated from the public sphere. It informs everything in terms of the way an African society runs. Everything around your ethnicity, around your arts, around your relationships, around your health, your diet, economics, death, rebirth, practices, etc. So I want to state that African spirituality is really holistic. So, for example, sickness in the African worldview is not only an imbalance of your body or your mind. It can also be linked to kinship issues or family and community relations, even lineages of one's ancestors. So with ancestors, ancestor reverence plays a key role here, given that they can guide, aid, assist, or bestow blessings or honours as part of an ongoing, active relationship with their descendants. Lineages of family, clan, spirit may also be linked with animals, spirit animals, nature spirits, and other ritual practices. And all of these have their corresponding narratives and stories as part of these African spiritual practices and beliefs. So it's clear to me that we are in a world of stories. We're in a world that we dream. So I'm just going to touch on a moment about ancestor reverence and beliefs, because these play such a key role in the life of their living descendants, which I think further underscores the role and the importance in daily life. Furthermore, African spirituality overall, for example, its plurality, the way it has a wholly inclusive nature, because it incorporates human beings, it incorporates deities, gods, goddesses, spirit beings, nature beings. It can even incorporate other things from other religions if it's seen in an African way to be practical and pragmatic to do so. But it also, in terms of African spirituality and the beliefs, practices and the values, they are based on the we, not the me. It's collective, it's communal, which is in direct contrast to most Western European individualized modes of spirituality and beliefs, practices and values. So it's just worth noting the contrast. And I think that's most exemplified in something like Ubuntu, I am because you are. But across the continent and the diaspora, you will find that we collective practice. Hello. So coming back to our theme of what it is to be human, what it means to be human, is I've already mentioned that, you know, we are in a world of stories. Whether you attach that to metaphysics, cosmic, you know, kinetic science, I mean, there's so many branches here, how we think about our unconscious, the subconscious, and everything else. But we're in this world of stories. We are ultimately creative beings. And we create our lives, we create our reality. We are creating reality with the stories of cells, the stories of our skin, the stories of our body, the story of our experiences on our journey to date, the collective stories that we share and the collective stories that we tell. We are shaping, we are telling stories. This ability is, I would suggest, a very unique human practice that distinguishes us as human. So often when we think, what is it to be human, we often think of our foibles. We tend to think of all our weaknesses. These sort of things come to our mind first. The way we're flawed. And yet, secretly, we aspire to great things. And in fact, we are great things ourselves. We are great beings. We can do great things beyond our physicality. And our ancestors knew this. And based on my journey to date, I do believe that we are all the stuff of stars. You know, we're all made of star stuff, every one of us. And our whole lives, really, are a journey of discovery and to really discover the very nature of the star stuff that we're made of. So we actually do know this because we have enough evidence that when we actually come together to create together, great, amazing things happen. And I think if we're able to have the chance to nurture our inclination that we had as children, for example, our imagination, that somehow we lost growing up, we could actually be better placed to construct our own individual and, importantly, collective dreams and stories. Absolutely everything starts with a spark. It starts with a spark. It starts with a clash of synapses, a thought, a dream. And it is in this way everything has a story, a beginning, a middle, and end. But also we can think in terms of things having cycles. And each cycle has its duration. And in this way, we can find out about the story of molecules, of atoms, of energy, of elements. And when we become inclined to study and to utilize and maximize our imaginative and our creative abilities, we can manifest outcomes individually and collectively. That is our magic. And that is the magic we have. Having that ability to make magic, I believe, is what makes us uniquely human. So we can manifest outcomes that we desire or we need. And through our own individual and group explorations, we can discover, and with our ancestors, our ancestral gifts, abilities, and importantly, our healing, and be able to manifest. These are the things that make us uniquely human. To add to that, I would say our ability to be able to tune into all of our senses, to trust more fully than we usually allow ourselves. That is our intuition, our inner training, our inner knowledge, our inner feeling. That's going to help us to discern the subtle, nuanced energies all around us and to do what I call the right things. That's going to bring more positive energy to our own and others' lives. And indeed, our fellow creatures, beings, and this planet. So the other thing that makes us so human is we always have the ability to make choices, decisions, at any and every given stage. I mean, this is a key distinctive characteristic of being human. Always, 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 always choices to make. Which one do we make? We have the power to make choices that can lead to our own growth, our family, and our communities. In fact, all our choices can do that on one level. If we think of our lives as a school or an adventure, but not a test. Often people think sufferation is a test, life is a test, you know. It may seem like it sometimes. But if we think of our lives here in this dimension, on this planet, we're here to learn. We're here to experience life with our spirit, body, and mind. So despite our circumstances, which can range from dire to irksome and troubling, we still can find beauty or even joy and ecstasy in life. Yet often we choose to think, believe, and act otherwise. This is the conundrum we live in. At once, we are star beings of immense, untapped power, light, love, magic, and beauty, which is the greater part of us and is unlimited. But we are focused solely on the physical, material, daily, operating from a default position of fear of scarcity, anxiety as our key motivators and drivers. Our clay feet weigh us down, as opposed to using our minds, our imagination, and sharing from our heart center the love, the light, the magnificence of who we really are. In this life, in this creation, we find ourselves at this particular time and space. So yeah, it seems like a huge big ask because we are greatly affected daily, our spirit, our mind and body as human beings, by an environment of a constant flow of toxic doom and gloom as supplied by media and reflecting specific agendas and our daily grind, the treadmill of mammon, all of which diminishes us as conscious beings, our ability to dream, to feed our dreams, to make real our own stories and stories of positive things. What we need to do is to mine our own creativity, however that might manifest itself and begin to shape new realities for ourselves, even within what appears to be restrictive contexts. To shift the paradigm of what we have been told to think what it is to be human, and to work and think about being a human in a holistic way, not just rational, scientific, technological way that actually might have unforeseen, negative, or unsustainable outcomes. We only have to look at the planet to know that. And consequently live our lives more magically day by day, and therefore be more fulfilled. So things like thinking and giving gratitude for abundance in all things, under our current circumstances, poses a real challenge. I know, it really does. I know. But living more aligned with our higher self, in our urban, busy, technological, atomized environments, we must switch off. We must meditate. We must come together with others to access heightened states of consciousness. Often this feels like a big ask, but we must. That is exactly what we must do. And it seems counterintuitive or counterproductive to maybe have a zero bank balance. It really does. Yet, despite that, to still continue to put energy regularly into your prayers, your ancestor calls, your positive affirmations, your money spells, to go about the world as if you are the most prosperous, wealthiest person in the world, having abundance in all things, not just money. I think I'm abundant if strangers smile at me, because that's a positive energy. And we can share positive energy. When we think about wealth and prosperity, we need to expand the paradigm of what that is. Okay? It's not just money. But we are rarely shown, or indeed get to experience, the magnificence of who we really are as human beings. So what we often get is the scientists who tell us how amazing we are as humans, you know, how amazing our bodies are, the way we're conceived and born, and how we learn and how we remember, and how our brain and our nervous system works, and how we develop and control our lives with our bodies, and how our thoughts and emotions and our hormones work. That's all good. It's not wrong. But it's a bit reductionist, this narrative, this story. In summary, it says we're the sum of our biology. It may go into further how we react or interact with our environment, with nature. There's the nature-nurture debate. Is it your genes or is it the environment you grew up with? Which one is it? I say it's both. That debate continues on. But it's still overly biologically deterministic. Human beings are much more beautiful and complex. We are not just the sum of our biology. But I say, what of the human heart? What of our soul? What of our creativity? What of the thoughts and emotions that we can register and subtly feel in our gut, which works like a second brain or a mind, our intuition? Surely we need other narratives other than these scientific narratives, and that we need to integrate more and learn more from our seers and our mystics and our artists and our healers and our caregivers, as well as scientists, to know what it is that makes us human. We need them to tell us more. We need to marry together more closely, in my view, science and the arts, spirituality and philosophy. We need to come back to what is known as the ancient or the old ways, along with finding new discoveries as to what it is really to be human, because we haven't even scratched the surface. A tremendous, huge amount of occult knowledge and practices are now shared across the internet and within other media and contexts. What I would say is, as human beings, and what makes us unique, is that we need to be able to discern and filter all this information. And we need to find what is it that vibrates and resonates with us, because that is the surefire way to know if there is a thing that is right for you or not, to just feel it. Okay? These are the things that uniquely make us human. So this need to discern and, feel the vibrations, for me, is paramount. It's one of the reasons why I want to do more work with young people, so that they know they can navigate their way through all this information. Because as somebody said, there's a lot of people on YouTube with YouTube scholarship, them read one book and them telling everybody about chakras and this and that, and they don't know too much. So we need to be able to filter this plethora of old and new information, because some of this information, as I said before, is from the old ways, the ancient ways. Some of it is new. And we need to acknowledge that some of this information that we are disseminating as human beings and we need to filter, we need to acknowledge the heritage, the legacy of other cultures than our own, by being honoring, respectful, and supportive, and to avoid blatant or ill-advised cultural appropriation. So I say this is an exciting time, despite challenges, to really further discover what it is to be human, to be able to discover and find our greater selves, to be able to utilize more fully our imagination, and to utilize more fully our creative, psychic, and spiritual abilities in whatever way they are for you and however they manifest at this particular time. Thank you. So I plan to do a short exercise with you, but before I move on, was there any questions that people might have had that came up as I was speaking?
I can't remember what you said. Monda. I can't remember what it was.
What's that, sorry?
I can't remember the word now. I didn't know it. Never mind.
Okay, it might come back to you. I'd love to explain it, because if you hear a term and you don't understand it, I'd love to explain it for you. Anyone else? Any comments or any burning questions or things that might have popped up in your mind or you don't agree with? Or yes?
I have two questions.
Yep.
One is about dreams, because that can be a way that ancestors can speak to you sometimes.
Yep.
Does it mean that every dream has relevance, or can some dreams just
From my experience, you could have a cheese cracker late at night dream, but generally all dreams, coming from your unconscious, subconscious, they all have some meaning for you, because when we go to sleep, it's a time when we've cut off from the busy world, and it's an opportunity for your body and mind to actually communicate more directly with you in a conscious way. So I would suggest having a dream journal and noting them down and interpreting all of them without making the judgment, I think this is just a food dream or whatever. I think because the ancestors and spirit in general use that means of communication, a dream journal is really good. And also as an artist, I find a dream journal is great to get ideas. You will be given all kinds of things, messages and ideas for your creativity. So it's worth keeping a dream journal. And yes.
My second question was, before you mentioned about your ancestors can guide you and things like that.
Yeah.
But can it ever be the opposite of that? Like, can ancestors not want the best for you?
My experience is not that. My experience is that once you begin to connect and begin to have, as I said, an active relationship with your ancestors, and your ancestors might be, you know, from different cultures, but we'll just focus on the African ones. But once you start to have an active relationship, what you can find is that ancestors come forward at any given time for whatever it is that you're going through at that life to give aid and assistance. And not only that, some of us may have what we call kind of like gatekeepers of our ancestors. So there's like somebody, an ancestor who's sort of like, you know, like a traffic cop. Not you today, but this one, bringing them forward. So like a sort of gatekeeper. So in summary, I don't subscribe to the idea of negative ancestors. If there's an ancestor giving you a problem, they need to be heard, and maybe they need healing or something, but generally not. Any other questions? Is that helpful? Yes. Yeah, good. Here and here.
Do you have to know the names of your ancestors?
No, but they may well reveal them in time.
Here's a mic, sorry, it's just so that people can...
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yes, hello?
Hello.
Carrying on from the point you just made about there's no negative ancestors, what would you say about, because I was sort of like informed, I don't know, a year or two ago, that not all ancestors are sort of like good or whatever, so maybe you should refer to when you're, you know, speaking to your ancestors, and I've been doing it ever since, I would say my ancestors in the light. Is that?
Yeah, if that works for you. I'm going to use myself as an example. Yeah. I've had to do healing work with my white ancestors, and some of them have done some naughty things. Yeah. But if you're working as a healer, as I do, on a high spiritual level, it's about compassion, forgiveness, and healing. And then, you know, they're not going to be a problem. But I think we all make individual choices about, I mean, it's like anything. We all don't relate to people, our friends, in the same way. So think of your ancestors like that. You might have specific ways that you're going to relate to them. And I'm not going to say what you've been told is wrong. I'm saying you find your own way. Yeah. You find your own way of connecting with them. If there's an ancestor that's keeping you awake, or you feel that's negative, there might be something there for you to engage with them and find out. They might need to do some healing work or some karmic stuff with you. But, you know, we don't rule people out all the time.
I wasn't told directly that. No. I just learned that along the way, kind of thing, in my journey of learning. And
but I think it's a good practice to, if you're astral traveling or meditating, to actually try and find out who it is you're connecting with, and asking if they're from the light is, I guess that's spiritual hygiene. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more?
Sorry,
here and then there.
I just picking up on what you've just said about your white ancestors, because recently I find that the white side of my lineage are now appearing in my dreams, and it's almost as if they're trying to atone. Yeah. So in whatever portal or area where they were not balanced in their behavior, they're now trying to make that atonement by clearing path.
Well, I think with something like that, you can call on spirit and higher power to ask for their healing, and they move on.
Yeah. So I'm really appreciative of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad that's helpful. Lady back. I'm hoping we've still got time for a workshop, but I think these questions are important. That's why we're here at this weekend. So
I'll try and keep it short.
No.
I was curious about if all ancestors need to be related by blood. I have quite a lot of adoption in my sort of family, and I'm thinking of like teachers who have passed on and things like that. So with ancestral stuff, does it strictly have to be by blood, or could you work with ancestors where it's not blood relation, but there's still a
there's
bond?
clearly blood ancestors, but there are other ancestors, because if you subscribe to the idea that you would have had other lives, and so therefore there are other ancestors. Does that make sense? Yes?
Okay.
Not just this lifetime.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Time's now 1:17.
So
Do you want to do a workshop?
let's do it. Do you fancy doing a quick workshop with me? Yeah, let's. It's sort of quite a lot to take in, but I'll be around this afternoon. So if you've got any more questions, so can everybody just close their eyes? Where you are, sit and be comfortable. I think I'll take this with me. Right, just make sure your feet are flat on the floor, no cross legs, hands relaxed in your hand. We're just going to do a little exercise here. Eyes closed. So I just want you to concentrate, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And with each breath, I'm going to ask you to bring in a golden light. So just breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and just feel your belly soft as you breathe in and breathe out. Just feel your belly nice and soft, and you are bathed in this glorious golden light. And it is going into every atom, every molecule, every cell, every tissue, fibre of your entire being. And as you bring it in, you know you are connected to the earth, you know you are connected to the sky, and this golden light is warm, comforting, healing, and protecting. So move that light, radiate that light, let it fill your aura so that you are in a complete circle, front, back, top, bottom, of warm, pulsing, radiating light. Just feel that for a moment. And I want you to be aware that as you are radiating and feeling this warm, healing light, it is removing and releasing and transmuting all negative, uninvited, unqualified, unevolved energies from your entire being. They are being transmuted and transformed and released and returned to source. And the spaces where that energy was are filled with more golden light, warm golden light pouring in to those spaces. Just feel the luxurious warmth. I'm going to play a singing bowl. It's going to cleanse energies, transmute further. I want you, as you hear the singing bowl tone, to focus your third eye on your inner being and just observe. Sounds, feelings, or any pictures or images. take a moment. Thoughts, images, feelings, sounds, sensations. I'm going to count to 10. When I count to 10, slowly bring your focus back into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's always good to have a little switch off and a little meditate, isn't it? Can I just ask before we break, did anyone get any sounds or images, words, feelings during that little exercise? Just shout out.
Hi, I did.
What did you get?
I saw an owl.
You saw an owl?
Yeah, looking at me.
Looking to owls.
And yeah, I'm aware because this is the same owl I've seen
right,
already.
okay, you've seen it before,
Yeah,
it's your friend.
yeah.
Okay. Great. We'll just have a little round up of any thoughts, images. Anyone else want to share?
Black Panther.
You saw a black panther,
I saw a little bird with turquoise feathers.
little bird with turquoise feathers. Any sensations?
One of them was a piano, and the other,
Sound?
yeah, I did get a sound on the piano.
Sound of a piano.
Yeah, and then another sound that I got was to do with water, actually, so just waves and stuff, really and truly. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I'm going to pass the mic up, just so that people.
It's all right. I'll take it up. Yeah, yeah. Because I'll go up. What did you get?
I kind of got a flashback from a dream that I had once, and I was just underwater talking to someone, and they were saying that I'm more powerful than I know.
Shake. Anyone else want to share?
Just down there.
Just down there, and then I'll close.
I could see in my hands, I was walking through a field, I don't know if it was wheat or whatever, it came up to my knees. I was just walking through, like it was like sunset, just walking through, brushing the whatever it was with my hands, but I felt very, very peaceful.
Very peaceful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring this to a close, but before I do, I just want to say that this is a very short exercise. I do sort of more in-depth exercise than this, where you are accessing what I was talking about, the things that make you uniquely human, and that when you get pictures, sounds, sensations, people talking to you, you can actually write those things down. You can paint a picture. If you got a sound, you can move to it. You can write a poem. I really want you to go away today and take with you the idea that I was talking about, that what makes you, uniquely human is the magnificence and the magic of who you are, and you can access that rich source of creativity, inspiration, and your spirituality at any time. All you need to do is what we did in our exercise. Thank you so much. Abundant blessings to all of you. Thank you. May the goddess and God bless you and your ancestors.